I'm Murray Newlands from Open Future Forum.
Why do AI agents hallucinate and how do you catch it? Agents hallucinate because the model underneath produces confident output whether or not it is right. And an agent does not just say the wrong thing, it does the wrong thing. So let me be precise about catching it. You cannot perfectly detect a hallucination at the moment it forms. What you can do is catch the risky behavior before it becomes an action by measuring confidence, validating tool calls, constraining what the agent is allowed to do, and logging everything so a wrong action is contained rather than catastrophic. I'm Murray Newlands, partner at IA Seed Ventures and founder of Open Future Forum, which runs small, off-the-record dinners for CFOs, CROs, CISOs, and CTOs in Silicon Valley. 100 events to date. In the chatbot era, a hallucination was a text error. A human reader could catch it. With an autonomous agent, the output is not text on a screen. It is behavior. The agent executes a call, writes to a database, and sends an email. So let me give you the 5 types of agent hallucination as a ladder of rising risk. 1. Factual hallucination. The agent asserts something false, a wrong figure or an invented citation. Bad but often catchable by a retrieval check or a second model. 2. Reasoning hallucination. The facts are right, but the logic is broken. The agent reads 2 correct reports and attributes a gap to a currency conversion that never happened. A broken step becomes a broken action, and because the facts underneath were true, this one is harder to catch than a plain falsehood. 3. Structural hallucination. This one is important for executives to accept. Work grounded in computability theory shows hallucination is mathematically baked into these models. You cannot fully remove it with a bigger model or cleaner data. There is always a non-zero chance of fabrication, so any plan that depends on eliminating hallucination is unsound, and any vendor who tells you they have solved it is selling you something. You design to contain it instead. This is the single most important mental shift for a leader. Stop asking how to make the model never wrong. Start asking what happens when it is. 4. Tool hallucination. The agent calls a tool that does not exist or invents the arguments. Told to issue a refund and unable to find the tool, it simply narrates that the refund went through, and downstream steps treat that fiction as fact. The error does not announce itself. It is absorbed as truth by everything that comes after. This is why tool calls have to be validated, not trusted. A call to a tool that does not exist should fail loudly, and a result the agent claims without a real tool response should never be accepted as real. 5. The one to watch. Permission hallucination. The agent believes it is allowed to do something it was never granted, and acts on that belief. The others degrade quality. This one crosses a trust boundary. And because many frameworks run tool calls under one broad credential, a confident wrong belief is often enough to make the unauthorized action succeed. Look at the blast radius and you see why the order matters. A factual error stays in the text. A reasoning error stays in the plan. A tool error breaks one workflow. A permission error reaches every system the underlying credential can touch. As you climb the ladder, the error moves from words to logic to a single broken task to your whole environment. So how do you catch the risky behavior before it acts? 4 moves. First, measure confidence. Teach the agent to tell the difference between knowing, thinking it knows, and having no idea. There are 3 common ways to get that signal. A self-rating prompt, where the model scores its own confidence, cheap, but usually overconfident. Cross-model comparison, where a different, cheaper model from another family critiques the answer, which catches more because 2 models rarely share the same blind spots. An entropy-based uncertainty, computed from the model's own token probabilities, the most grounded signal when your provider exposes it. Whatever the method, the point is a threshold. Above a high bar, the agent may act. In a middle band, it must ask a clarifying question. Below a low bar, it escalates to a human. And calibrate the scores, because a model claiming 90% confidence while being right 70% of the time is worse than no score at all. An overconfident number does not just fail to help, it actively misleads the system that trusts it. What this looks like in practice is an agent that behaves differently depending on how sure it is. High confidence, it acts. Middle confidence, it does the thing a good employee does when unsure. It asks a quick, clarifying question rather than guessing. Low confidence, it stops and hands the decision to a person, with the context that person needs to decide. That single change turns the failure mode from silent and confident to visible and cautious. The goal is not an agent that is never wrong. We established that is impossible. The goal is an agent that gets quieter and more careful exactly when it should. Second, validate the tool calls. Before an action runs, check that the tool exists, the arguments are well formed, and the result the agent is about to rely on actually came back from a real call. A surprising share of agent failures are not the model being wrong about the world. They are the model being wrong about whether something happened, and a validation step between the decision and the action catches exactly that. Third, constrain the blast radius with permissions. This is where security and reliability meet. If the agent hallucinates that it can delete records, but its grant does not include deletion, the hallucination is harmless because the layer blocks the action. Least privilege permissions are not only a security control, they are your safety net for hallucination. The agent can believe whatever it wants. It can only do what it was granted, and the irreversible actions sit behind a human approval gate. Authority lives in the infrastructure, never in the model's head. Fourth, log everything for visibility. When an agent acts on a bad belief, you want to see it at once, understand what it touched, and trace it back. Full audit visibility turns a hallucinated action from a mystery into a recorded event you can contain and learn from. Notice that 2 of the 4 defenses are permissions and visibility. That is not a coincidence. The reliability problem and the governance problem have the same answer, because both come down to limiting what an uncertain actor can do and seeing clearly what it did. This is part of why I advise Agentic Fabric, the identity and permissioning layer for AI agents, the Okta for agents model. The hallucination defense and the security model are the same layer. Permissions are enforced at runtime, so a hallucinated permission does not become a real action. High-risk actions can require human approval. Every action is logged immutably. Credentials sit outside the agent, so a confused agent cannot leak a secret it never held. To be clear about the claim, this does not stop the model from hallucinating. It reduces the blast radius when it does, which is the only thing that can actually be promised. They tell me over 500 agents run through that layer today. Here is the practical guidance. Ask your team 2 questions about every agent in production. What happens when this agent is wrong, and how would we know? If the answer to the first is it could take a damaging action, your permissions are too broad. If the answer to the second is we would probably notice eventually your visibility is too thin, fix those 2 and a hallucination becomes a contained event instead of an incident. AI agents hallucinate because the model produces confident output whether or not it is correct, and you cannot fully remove it. You do not catch every hallucination. You catch the risky behavior before it acts, by measuring and calibrating confidence so the agent pauses or escalates when unsure, validating tool calls, constraining permissions so a wrong belief cannot become a damaging action, and logging everything so anything that slips through is visible and contained. Open Future Forum is a private executive community in Silicon Valley that runs small, off-the-record dinners for C-suite executives. Over 400 events since 2021, bringing together senior executives, founders, and investors. If you want to be considered for an Open Future Forum dinner, find me on LinkedIn. If you want to sponsor one, the same applies. I'm Murray Newlands from Open Future Forum. See you in the next briefing.